think about the things we were talking about then. We had our lists and we had our power rankings, and you know what was being said, Stink. It was, hey, the Broncos power ranking, they're like 29 or 30th out of 32 teams. If you were taking a look at the roster breakdowns and ranking all the NFL rosters, the Broncos were, in some cases, dead last, even behind Carolina when it came to just roster makeup. You had mock drafts that were already showing up that had the Broncos picking as high as number 3 and taking Shedeur Sanders at number 3. They'd give up on Bo after 1 year. This was all the stuff. We had an over-under from Vegas with 5.5 wins, and we were questioning whether or not they'd be able to get to that. We were having discussions, well, can Bo pass the eye test even if the Broncos only go 4-13? This was all the conversations that were going on, and they were pretty well accepted conversations at the time. So, Stink, to be sitting here at 9-5, this is a massive accomplishment, and it's one to be celebrated.
Huge, but, obviously for them, they weren't going, hey, let's just beat the over-under on the spread that Vegas has for us. They had bigger plans. They planned on being good. They planned on winning games. Sean Payton asked about, that 5.5. He goes, the next time I only win 6 games will be the first time I win 6. They had bigger plans, and good. I'm glad they did. I'm glad they had better expectations and bigger plans than the rest of us. And it is a big deal, man, to get 9 wins now. Obviously, getting in the playoffs, locking into the playoffs, locking as seed as possible. That's a bigger deal, but to this point, man, we haven't experienced any of this in quite some time. So, yes, it is a big deal.
Yeah, you bring Sean Payton here to change the culture, to fix the mess that was, the previous 7-8 years. And part of that is having a winning record, right? Sometimes it's baby steps to get to ultimately your bigger goals, which is playoffs, which is Super Bowl. And you're doing it with a rookie quarterback. So, when you have a losing culture, it's hard to change that and to fix that. And so this is part of it. You got to be a winner first, right? You got to get to a winning record, which I think, for people in that building or whatever, it's kind of might be, you'll think about it after the season. But for fans and for us that follow it and talk about it a lot, it's been a while. It has been a while, and it's important to, if you're trying to change that culture and get this thing turned around, you got to be a winner first.
You had to, and that was always my point, that when we were talking about Bo and the eye test, right? I always felt that there had to be a certain number of wins to back that up. You couldn't just say, well, he passed the eye test, but they win 3 or 4 games. In order to pass the eye test, in order for us to feel confident that this thing is going in the right direction, I thought that a certain number of wins had to accompany it. Stink. Now, at the time, I was comfortable in saying, hey, you win 7 games, you win 6 games if they look a certain way, then I could start to back that up with a win total. But I didn't think 4 or 5 would be able to get it done. 9 has me absolutely convinced that this thing is going in the right direction. And the most exciting thing about it for me is there is still a lot of talent upgrades that need to occur with this roster. And I'm really excited about the idea of going out and adding those kind of players over the next couple of years, bring them into what this culture seems to be that they're developing. And I love the direction they're going in. I am if I had a chance to buy Broncos stock, I'm buying it in bulk right now.
Yeah. I would ask you this. Think about this. Imagine, if you will, or if you can, if this team could actually run the ball.
Right.
What if they could run the ball? What if they were efficient running the ball? Could they have right now 10 or 11 wins right now? Should have won that game against Kansas City. There's probably another win or two if they could just run the ball that you could give them over the course of this season. They might be sitting up here at 10, 11, dare I say 12 wins. Like, it's amazing because defensively they've been great. Now, here's my one concern with this defense. Is it starting to show some signs of wear and tear? A little bit, just from the standpoint of you can't possess and you can't run the football, you can't take pressure off that defense. But again, a 9-win season, a winning season is to be celebrated. It's amazing, and let's face it, most of the quote-unquote experts, and I use air quotes when I say that, were dead wrong about this football team.
Yeah, I think it gets you excited about the future, certainly. I mean, we got all our draft picks, right? I know we got our first rounder, and so you got your picks. Your salary cap situation is going to be much better moving forward. A great call there by them taking that big hit this year and not next year. So you're going to be in a lot better shape than where you've been in the past, where you've given up a lot of your draft picks, the Russell Wilson, the Sean Payton trades, and now your salary cap situation is going to be much better moving forward. So you're in a pretty good situation, a lot better than where you've been. And oh, by the way, you're winning along the way, and that's pretty cool.
I'm glad you brought up the dead cap hit, because do you remember the doomsday talk that was out there when they decided to take the cap hit? It was like, they punted on this season. They're going to be lucky to be
punted. That's right.
They're going to be lucky to be able to put together a roster.
Yeah.
With this dead cap hit. Remember that conversation?
I remember, Mike, because you and I don't know where at the time Stoke was working in the middays, right? You were working with Dover, so I don't know what you and Dover were talking about.
You don't
Probably
have to
Dover.
say it so derogatory
Goodness.
sounding.
Wow.
My goodness.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I was
down
thinking
on Dover.
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 You were yeah, I was down on Dover because I remember us, Mike and I, being like, stop talking about the cap. The cap is fake. And I feel like you felt the same way because you were jaywalking. Like right from camp, you'd walk right across, you would jaywalk from the tent right across 8 lanes of traffic. You didn't care. Meanwhile, we got Crosswalk Josh going all the way down, taking it about 15, 20 minutes, being late to the show, getting down to the crosswalk before he crossed. I have a feeling he was talking about doomsday. Yeah, the doomsday effect of salary cap gate.
Yes. I think that's well said. Of course, I was on the right side of this, Mark.
Yes.
But I think you look at it, and, yeah, you can finagle the cap, and they've done a good job of structuring these contracts and still being able to sign some of their guys. I mean, they've had, 2 in-season signings, right? Jonathan Cooper, Garrett Bowles. So you're still able to pay money out and get some of these deals done.
They get minors paid, too?
Miners was
that during that was right before the season started,
yes.
right? Yeah.
And so you've gotten some of your business handled and accomplished that you need to do. I mean, that move's a Greg Penner move to take the cap hit this year. Because the coach doesn't want to do it, the GM doesn't want to do it, but to have the foresight to say, no, we're going to take it this year. And you're right, Evans. To your point, that there was a lot of talk about, this is going to be a total rebuild year, and they're punting on the season this year. I forgot about that conversation, but you look up, and that makes it even more impressive. We can't forget about that talk and what it looked like, after moving on from Russ and, just the talk surrounding the Broncos and what it would look like this year.
Yeah. Once we get done, over this day and the next day, maybe – I think it's worth celebrating, but then we're going to turn the page, and we've certainly now got our sights set higher with this football team. But I didn't want to let a day after like this pass without celebrating the accomplishment of what this team has done, considering what was being said before the season began. Because
that was a James
very
Merilatt
few predicted
deal.
this. Yeah,
James Merilatt deal, right? With the wait, now we should just keep Russ because the cap. Oh, yeah, that was a Merilatt deal. No question.
Exactly.
Not a good day for James.
Not a good day.
Not a good day for James Russ.
It's
tough one for him today. He looked a little bit down.